We recently shot the spec commercial for Starbucks, and one of the shots didn't make it into the final video. Even though it's a great way to showcase a product, it didn't fit the overall flow. Making things float like this is a great way to increase the production quality of your videos. So today, I'll show you how to do it. This is called a Lazy Susan, or an electric Lazy Susan in this case. The electric one costs about 40 euros, but you don't need an electric one to make things float. A manual one costs only 11 euros and works just as fine. So in the first step, you need to capture a full 360-degree spin of the product. I'll use this Starbucks cup in this case, and you can use whatever background you want to. Instead of doing it this way, you could also use a green screen, but that comes with its own challenges, and I do prefer to do it this way. I'm not saying that this is the right way, it's just my preferred way. So what you want to do is elevate your item a bit by using a small object between the plate and the product. Depending on the product, you could also MacGyver something like I did using a friction arm. But it's important that no part of the product is blocked by the spacer or the friction arm at any time, since this is hard to fix in post. I'm going to place the item in the middle of the plate to get a perfectly centered 360-degree shot. I'm using a 2-light setup in this case. One key light, one kicker light to illuminate the bottom of the product, as well as a white piece of cardboard to bounce some light onto the other side of the product. I would recommend using manual focus when shooting the 360-degree product shot, since you want it to be perfectly in focus throughout the whole clip. And that's all the footage we need. Time to open up After Effects and make it float. Alright, so the first thing we do is start a new composition. Now click STRG or Command and I to import the clip of the cup and drag it into the timeline. Now double click on the clip in the timeline and click on the rotor brush icon and start painting over the Starbucks cup. It's very important to get the first frame as perfect as possible, so that After Effects knows on what to focus on when it starts to mask out the cup. So zoom in and create a perfect first mask. If there's something you want to remove, press and hold Alt and paint over or click on the area you want to remove from the mask. It doesn't always work perfectly right away, so just redo it until it looks good. Now that we have masked out the first frame perfectly, we let After Effects do the rest of the work for us. Well, almost. We now go through the timeline frame by frame by holding STRG or Command and using the arrow to check out if After Effects is doing a great job. Depending on the frame rate and the length of the clip, this might take a few minutes. But imagine you would have to mask out every frame yourself, because that's what it was like before Rotobrush. If After Effects messes up some parts, just zoom in, add or remove the area and continue. Once you've done that, click Freeze and let After Effects create a separate clip of just the masked out item. When it's done, go back to your Composition tab, and if you want to, you can play around with your Rotobrush settings in the Effects controls to smooth out edges, add feather, and reduce chatter to optimize your mask if needed. Pro tip: I rarely use the Rotobrush settings in the Effects tab, but what I always use is Refine Soft Matte, which you can find in the Effects tab. I don't think that I need to say much more, since the results speak for itself, right? Now click STRG or Command+M to add the masked out clip to your render queue. Click on Output Module, change the channels to RGB plus alpha and click OK. And finally, click on Output 2 to select where you want After Effects to export the clip to. You could add the background in After Effects as well, but I'd rather do it in Premiere Pro. So let's fire Premiere Pro, open up a new project, press STRG or Command I to import the masked out clip from After Effects, as well as the background photo or clip. Drag both clips into the timeline. Make sure that the masked out one is on top of the background clip. I do have to trim the masked out clip down a bit to get a perfectly timed shot. Before I start to make the cup float, I do a quick color grade using my Sony a7S III base grade, and tweak a few things like contrast and saturation. What I like to do is scale the top clip to about 35% of its original size at the beginning of the clip, add a keyframe, skip about half a second and increase the scale to 65%. Then move forward about 3 seconds and set the scale to 90%. Up next, rotation. I set the first one at -25 degrees, go to the next one and set it to -10 degrees, and the last one to 0 degrees. One last thing you could do is to create a vertigo effect by adding keyframes at the beginning and the end of your background clip, starting at 125% and ending at 100. You could also add some directional blur to the top clip by adding keyframes at the beginning of the clip for direction and blur length. Let's start with 50 degrees and 15. Skip forward to the second keyframe of the scale/rotation, add another keyframe and put both numbers back to 0. Now let's render the whole thing and see what it looks like. Not bad, huh? And just like that, we made the Starbucks cup float. It's a great way to increase the production quality of your videos and a great tool to have, especially when shooting product videos. Feel free to share your results in the comments down below, and if you want to see more tutorials like this one, subscribe. That's all for today. Until next time. Peace.